Okay, so this last tutorial is going to be how to represent terrain contours in a very nice, beautiful way. So to start, I have a DEM on the bottom, and I have contours that I cut using that DEM on the top, right? So what I recommend doing is to combine the DEM image with a hillshade. So how do you create a hillshade? You go to Arc Toolbox, either in the 3D Analyst or in the Spatial Analyst toolbar here. I'll use 3D Analyst. There is a thing called hillshade in Raster Surface. So double click on hillshade and then drag in the DEM and just leave this as is. I want to see what it looks like, just plain old as is. So it looks pretty good. You could say, like, for instance, like change the sun angle to be more realistic. So let's say you go into hillshade, drag in this guy, and right now the angle of the sun is at 45 degrees, and the azimuth, if you imagine a circle, like what direction is the sun pointing from? So let's change that to something like 90 and see what we get from that. So that looks a little better, actually, I think. No, actually this one looks better. Sorry, the original one looked good. So I'm just gonna remove that. Okay, so with a hillshade and a DEM on the bottom set, I'm actually gonna do this. I'm going to classify this DEM by going to symbology, classified, maybe do 10 steps, maybe do something a bit more lighter, say like this. Maybe let's do 20 steps. Maybe let's do a something like that, and then I'm going to flip colors so that blue is the low area and brown is the high area. I'm going to set a paper space, so I'm just going to do this real quick. I'm going to set the page to be a square, so let's do 11 by 11. I'm going to zoom into this image here. And then we're going to export this by itself. So go to Data, Export Map, save it as a JPEG. It's in my desktop. I'll call this one DEM. And then we're trying the hillshade, and save that. Export map. Call this one hillshade. And then export the contours. So this one here. And then export that as an AI file. Export map. Save it as an AI. And I'll call this one contour. Okay. So then we're going to go into Photoshop. Okay, so with that set up, I brought in the DEM into Photoshop. I'm going to place the hillshade on top of that, and we're going to place the contours on top of that. And then we're going to use the hillshade. I'm going to rasterize this, and rasterize the base, and we're going to use an overlay to overlay that on top of the base here. So you can already see that adding a hillshade to the DEM base already begins to give that base a bit of three-dimensionality. Now you can play with the filters, see if maybe multiply or color burn or any one of these filters to give the effect that you want. I think multiply look pretty good. And then you can increase the contrast of the hillshade, right? To increase the intensity of that look. And then when you put the contours on top of that, you begin to see that it actually has a very nice effect where you can kind of see, you know, the high, like compare that with, if I just put a white background, this is what I see a lot of like students do, is like just plain old contour maps, like so. But even just adding the DEM as a base is good, but then adding the hillshade takes it to another level. So this is a very legible contour drawing. You can easily see the high points, easily see the low points, and then everything makes perfect sense. And maybe you say to yourself, I don't like that green thing, so, or the color ramp, so you just turn down the saturation or something. But to me, this is a really, really good way to represent sites. Combine the DEM with the hillshade with the contour map. Easy. So that's all I recommend for that, and that's the end of this representation tutorial.